So she's like, I starts blowing my phone up. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, in the middle of the game, I'm like, I can't hear anything. I can't really answer the phone. And she starts texting me. She's like, call me now. I was like, oh, this doesn't sound good. So I like waited till like the quarter was in or halftime or something. And I call her back and she's like, your house is flooding. I'm like, oh, what's going on? She's like, they left the water on and you have a pipe that burst and your house has been flooding for the last 2 weeks. This is in December. This is in January.
Welcome back to The Broke Billionaires, where we document our daily struggles in building wealth while raising a young family. Join us as we talk creative wealth building for everyday people and couples that are struggling in a down economy. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Joshua Masari, and we'll be your host.
Here we are on another Friday night. Why do we keep doing this on Fridays?
Because I guess we can't find time on the more convenient nights. I don't know.
There's just always something.
Kids sick, kids this, kids that.
I'm pregnant. I'm exhausted most nights. But we're making it happen.
We're making it happen.
And you know what? Tonight, we're a lot more comfortable because big thank you to you for finding this amazing restoration hardware couch. What's the couch called? I forget.
I think it's a Kensington.
It's so comfortable, and you found it on Facebook Marketplace for basically free, and you didn't even have to drive that far to get it.
So funny is it takes me back to my couch flipping days. I actually bought this from a couch flipper that was retiring from couch flipping, and he thought it was so cool that I was an OG couch flipper that he just basically gave this thing to me for next to nothing and said, that's so cool, come get it.
Amazing.
So
we are much more comfortable now. Yeah. Makes doing this on a Friday night a little bit easier, huh?
Yeah, we're not filming these episodes yet, but the setup we had before was very uncomfortable. We have
some photos we can post maybe later on.
Boxes propping up our mic stands so they were high enough, and
folding chairs
that were not very
had
comfortable.
Like blankets on top of the folding
not only
chairs.
Did we get these, we got these booms for the mics.
Yeah.
Amazon had a special, I don't know what it was. They were like $16. So
amazing.
Some special deal going on. So yeah, we're moving on up. We're episode 8 now. So
amazing.
We're starting to get a little more professional.
We're going to continue tonight talking about the 401ks from last time's episode. But before we do that, I think just kind of like doing a temperature check, right? Like, I think I don't know about you, but I'm really starting to realize like the more people I'm starting to kind of open up about this, and, you know, whether it's talking about the fact that we're doing this podcast and why we're doing it, or just being really open and honest about kind of our financial struggles right now, I'm finding that more often than not, people are saying, me too. And that's the situation that we're in, or, you know, we're struggling also. Have you found that at all?
I mean, I have conversations with friends that are always going through the same thing. You know, it's like we're always cash broke. Like we talk about being cash broke, but still building our businesses, building investments, building wealth. So I don't think it's anything specifically like now. I mean, I know a lot more people that are going through hard times. So yeah, I have more conversations now with people that are really struggling because of the economy, just with work situations or just, you know, whatever it is. So there's definitely more of that now than there has been in the past.
Yeah.
And I think people are more open about it because there's so many more people that are struggling. So people are finding, you know, common ground with each other in that.
But they're surprised still. Like, people are always very surprised when I tell them what we're going through. Like, shocked.
Because from the outside, they just see, oh, you got all these houses and cars and businesses.
Got it all together.
You got it all figured out.
Nope, sure don't.
But they just see like the tip of the iceberg portion. You know, our iceberg may not be that big yet, but they see the part that's above the water, which is our wealth that we have built up. I mean, it's not like we haven't done anything, but they still don't see, you know, when you open up the you know, looking glass to what's underneath the water, the bottom part of the iceberg, it's It's just not
large.
something to see. Yeah. It's not something that people
large.
see. People don't talk about it.
I think the other thing too that I've really realized over the last couple of weeks is the spirit of being open about what we're going through in terms of like, there's been some of our kids' activities that we have not had the money to pay for this month, and just being honest and real about what we're going through. They've said, don't worry about it for this month. I mean, there's been some really cool conversations we've had and things that we were not expecting anything to come from that. We just are honest about our situation. And, I think that that's been eye-opening for us for sure.
Yeah, I think part of that's probably just because there are so many people going through this right now. So there's a lot of understanding about that. But, being upfront about it and kind of getting in front of those situations, I think people respect that and people want to work with you and help you. We had a contractor the other day that we had this window we had ordered. We've been waiting for this window for 6 months, and then we put a deposit on it last month and literally didn't have the money for the install the other day. And told the owner, said, hey, look, here's the situation. We're still going to do it. I just don't have the money now. So, the funding, we just don't have the funding that came in we were expecting. So, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And he said, we'll just put it in. No big deal. We're not even putting it on the books till next year anyway. So, I know you're good for it. Don't worry about it. So we were able to
get that
finished. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Just I think being upfront about that and it's just been, I guess, encouraging to see the people that are supportive or want to help or just like, it's okay. Like,
And it takes like that step of being humble. It's very humbling to have that conversation.
Yes.
We've been very humbled, I think, in having these conversations, but it's very encouraging. It's amazing to see the kindness of people, and, it's been nice. The other thing I want to kind of talk about briefly is that post I saw, was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember, from Rich Summers. And he had posted, being broke is part of the game. You can't skip the struggle if you want the story. And it just felt very fitting for
I
this
think
season.
that the people that, with what we're doing, we're not the only ones out there trying to build wealth this way. It's not easy. It's, it is a struggle. And anybody that is going, building wealth this way and going on this journey is going to have that season or those seasons when, your capital is tied up in investments and the income dries up for a period, or you've got too much, going on, too much construction, too many projects, and just not enough to go around. And people are going to get into those situations, but you just fight through and figure out a way to make it work. And then, you're better off for it down the road. But I think that's really common for people that are building wealth the way that we are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of encouraging to see something like that.
Yeah.
Especially from somebody like Rich Summers, who's respected in the investing world. We actually know, well, you're one of his employees, one of his first employees.
Yeah. It's one of my very good friends.
Yeah. Well, she was in our wedding. And so we've kind of seen his journey from when he started his company a few years ago and how he's growing with his podcast. So, I think he's somebody who's well respected in the industry, and just hearing that from somebody like that's definitely encouraging. Knowing
reading like the comments from people too that were responding to that. I mean, everyone was like, yeah, it was very
the struggle
encouraging.
is real.
But again, I don't think I saw one female comment on that. It's very much like a male. I feel like males are better about talking about being broke than females are. I don't know. It was interesting reading through the comments for sure. Seeing how many people agreed and had, things to say about it. But I don't think, I'll have to go back and check and see if anyone else had commented, but yeah.
Just a quick disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Your individual circumstances may differ and require specific strategies not discussed here. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, let's get back to where we left off in 401ks.
Yeah, so we went over what the 401k, like a super 401k, and how to supercharge your 401k. What we want to get in today is how we've done that. We didn't really go into the details on what we have done, but we're going to kind of get into some of the deals, not all of them, but we're going to go over a handful of deals that we've actually done and show the numbers and the returns and kind of go over why this is such a incredible investing tool and how you can really exponentially grow your 401k this way. So I talked about the initial rollover from my previous company's 401k, and it was around I want to say it was about $85,000. So that's what I had to work with starting out. And I didn't really know where to start, where to invest. I hadn't really done any out of state investing at that point, but I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to do it in California. I was looking out in Palm Desert, 29 Palms. Because back, this was 7, 8 years ago, you could still buy properties for $60,000. And so since that was kind of in the budget, I was looking out there, and I went and looked at a few properties. I think I'd gone to a few auctions I went to, and just never landed anything. And I ended up getting connected. There was a RIA that I was going to in Orange County. It was like a Bigger Pockets meetup. Ended up meeting somebody who was investing in Missouri with this turnkey, I don't know what you'd call it, but basically this company would partner with investors, and they would find a property. The investor would fund the property, pay for it at the auction, fund the rehab, and then they would start renting it out and managing the property. So they were kind of like turnkey in terms of like acquiring the property and doing the renovations and then doing the property management on the back end. And he had done a couple deals with them. So I called them and to see what that was all about and how it worked. And basically you give them, it was a $10,000 fee for them to do everything, but you give them like
per property or
per
just
property, yeah,
okay.
for them to go to the auction, because they were physically going to the auction, bidding on your behalf.
Yeah.
They were managing,
because they're on the ground.
Yeah, and they were managing the rehab. They were doing everything start to finish, getting it to, and you didn't have to use their services for property management at the end of the day, but that was kind of what they were shooting for to get that as well. And I think they had a lower PM fee than most property managers. So it seemed like a decent deal for $10,000. They were doing quite a bit of groundwork, and I wouldn't have to go out there. So the properties that they were buying were like between like $60,000 to $70,000, and they would put like maybe $10,000 to $20,000 into them, depending on what they needed. And you get a little equity, but I think it was, the $10,000 fee kind of ate up that. So you'd have a little equity at the end of the day, but the idea is you would be able to get it cash flowing and then refinance out of it. And so I ended up doing the deal, signing up, getting on their wait list. And when my turn came up, there was this property that came to market. This is in Kansas City, just outside of Kansas. Actually, this was in Kansas City, Missouri. But there was this property that came up for $13,000.
So insane.
Like when they're normally buying them for 50 or 60, and it may have been a little smaller and it wasn't as good of an area, but they're like, "You want to do this?" I'm like, $13,000? Yeah, let's do it.
I can't believe you could even
still buy houses. So $13,101. I think we bid $1 over to get over the next guy that was bidding on it or whatever. But basically $13,000 plus the $10,000 fee, so $23,000 on the acquisition. When we went to start the rehab, it turned out that the owner wanted to stay there and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in renting this from you as is. I'd like to buy it back someday, but I'm open to renting." And you don't normally do that. It's not usually a good scenario, but they felt good about it. I didn't have to put any money into the project because it was just, he'd do it as is.
Yeah.
So I said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and do it." So we rented it for $550 a month. And that was in 2016. And then I held that property till 2019 and decided to sell Oh, I know why. Because the previous owner, ended up eventually moving, didn't buy it back, and so since we never did the rehab, it was now time to do the rehab. I had bought a few other properties in the meantime and didn't have. I had a little bit of funds, but I don't know if I had enough funds to get through the rehab. And so I was kind of weighing like, wow, do I like try to get some more funds together and do this rehab? What do I do? And they were going to do the rehab for free at that point because I'd already paid for it. They just never did it. So it was kind of like a deferred pay, fee. But I decided just to sell it because I had already started buying in South Carolina and building a portfolio out there. And this was kind of like a loan property. So, ended up selling it. And the disposition on that, was $33,400. So with the rent that was collected, so it was a 3.5 year hold. With the rent that was collected and the profit from the disposition, even taking into consideration that $10,000 fee, there was a total profit of $29,549. So it was just under $30,000 over 3.5 years on a $23,000 investment. So over 3.5 years, it's a 128% return, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That breaks down to a 36.5% IRR. So an IRR is how some investments, so the way an IRR breaks down is investors will take the total return of a project from acquisition to disposition. So it adds up all of the profit that you make from revenue, like operating, whether it's operating income or rental income. It takes all of your profits over that period of time, plus your profit from the equity when you sell. So it combines the two, and then they just divide it by the hold period to give you what the IRR is. So it's basically like a rate of return. It's called an internal rate of return. It's the rate of return per year when you just divide it by how many years you're holding. So it's not like a compounding. So 36.5% sounds really high. So an actual percentage, like if it was a normal compounding interest rate, it would probably come out to about 30%. So it's not quite as, maybe a little less, maybe like 25 or 30%. So it's not as good, but still very good return. Very, very good return.
Definitely.
And that was in 2019. And so the next property, I'd actually bought another one shortly after that in same year, 2016. And this was in South Carolina. I started buying properties there. And this next one, bought for $30,000. And these are all just cash deals at this point. So 2016, bought this for $30,000 and didn't have to do anything to it. It was owner occupied, and they had taken pretty good care of it. It needed some flooring, had some flooring issues, it needed some new flooring, but we ended up getting a tenant that wanted to have dogs, and I was going to put flooring in it, but I said, well, we'll let them have the dogs if they take it as is and we don't have to do the flooring. And they were good with that. So that tenant was actually there for the entire time that we owned that property. They were there for like 6 years, I think, 6 or 7 years. No, not that long. Bought in 2016, 2023. They were like 5.5, so about 5 years. They were there for 5 years. That one, this was so there's good deals and bad deals. You win and lose. This wasn't a loss, but this was definitely one of those things when things can go wrong. So this tenant ended up moving out, and I don't know if we had to evict them or if they just stopped paying. I don't remember what happened, but I know that they didn't even turn their keys in, or something happened. The property management didn't even know that they had left or something. And so they left this property, and they did not, normally when someone leaves, they turn off utilities in their name because they don't want to be paying for them. Okay. But these people were behind on their utilities. So they just skipped town, and they did not turn off the water with the city because they had a bill. If they would have gone in there to turn it off, they would have to pay their final bill. And so they just skipped out and they weren't going to pay it anyway. So they just didn't care. So nobody knew that the water was left on in this property, which here in California, it's not a big deal, but this is South Carolina. I was at a football game. I was at a 49er playoff game, and my phone starts blowing up. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And it is my business partner. I do have a partner out there that we own other properties and another portfolio together. And she's the one that helps me buy these properties. She's a realtor out there. And so she's kind of my boots on the ground. And she's been a huge, huge help. So having somebody like that when you're investing out of state is absolutely crucial, because she'll do a walkthrough and do video and things you don't normally see.
Like we said, like houses are so deceiving in photos. I mean, they can look amazing.
You can walk in there and it smells like mold and mildew. You don't know that from the photos, but she would tell me that. So, she's like, I starts blowing my phone up. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, in the middle of the game, I'm like, I can't hear anything. I can't really answer the phone. And she starts texting me. She's like, call me now. I was like, oh, this doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So I like waited till like the quarter was in or halftime or something. And I call her back and she's like, your house is flooding. I'm like, oh, what's going on? She's like, they left the water on and you have a pipe that burst and your house has been flooding for the last 2 weeks. This is in December. This is in January.
I forgot about this.
And there was a big cold front that came through. It was like negative 10 degrees. And so over there, when your pipes freeze, when there's frozen water, it expands. So what happens is if inside the pipe freezes, it expands and it just blows out the pipe. And then you've just got water. So
is that like a super common thing in places it gets really cold?
Yeah, so we would
obviously don't deal with that
winterize,
here.
like when we have a vacant property, and if the water is on, we have to go and we turn on a faucet somewhere, so you have kind of constant water running through, so it's not stopped, because that when it stops, that's when it freezes up. So we don't know how long this water was flowing for, but it was probably a good week or two, just water just flooding the whole kitchen, living room area. It was just coming out through the doors. It was bad. So, got the water turned off. And it was a big ordeal. She couldn't they couldn't even find the water. It was like buried in mud. And so they had to have somebody, I don't remember if it was the city or somebody came out and like got it turned off. So we like stopped the bleeding type of thing. But I ended up doing an insurance claim. And it ended up, actually it's right here. So the insurance payout ended up being $29,096. So it's just over $29,000 on a property that I paid $30,000 for.
So crazy.
And there was an additional $5,000 that they held back and said, once all your renovations or once all the build back is done, we'll pay out the rest of it. So I had two options. I could take the $30,000 and get this all rebuilt, and then collect the additional $5,000. Now, I was also getting ready to sell this property. So at this point, I'd held it for 5.5 years. It was time to cycle through. I was going to sell it. My plan was to put about $15,000 into it, do the flooring that I never did, and just do some basic paint and kind of refresh everything else. So I was going to spend about $15,000, and then I think we were going to list it for like maybe like 110, somewhere around there. But what I ended up doing is weighing my options, and I decided to not do that and sell the house as is, for somebody else to come in and fix it up and live in it or flip it, and take my payout. And I ended up selling the property for $55,000 as is, plus the $30,000 or $29,000 I got from the insurance. With the rent that I made over the five years that it was renting, with everything put together, the total profit ended up being $90,000 on that property that I spent $30,000 for.
That's insane.
So that quadrupled the actual profit alone was 3 times what I paid for the property, plus the amount of property I got back. So that's four times the money over 5 years on a deal that flooded and went bad.
So crazy.
So it just made more sense.
Like, luck was on your side on that one for sure.
Yeah, I could have put the money into it and sold it for 115, but it wouldn't have been that beneficial. And
with the time, I mean, we know how those things work. And
the time, it just made more sense to get out, and maybe I could have made an extra $15,000 or $20,000, but it wasn't worth it. It's really hard to manage these type of projects from afar too, making sure it's done right, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So that profit on that deal was still really good on a deal that went bad. The return over 5.5 years was a 300% return. So that's an incredible return on a deal that went bad. That comes out to a 54.5% IRR. I think is right around 30% as a compounded annual rate on the ROI. So pretty good deal for a bad deal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is how, that could have just, that money in the stock market might have made 8% over those 5 years. Wouldn't be worth anywhere near what I ended up getting. When I look at evaluating investments, everything I look for, I don't like to invest in anything that's less than 15%. And the reason for that is the rule of 72 is, I learned this way back in college, and I always thought this was really cool. But the rule of 72 is, you take an investment and you divide by 72 to find out how long it takes at that interest rate to double your money. So
why 72?
Because that's what math says that it comes out to. So if you take an investment that returns, so basically my philosophy is that I want to double my money every 5 years at a bare minimum. We do a lot better than that, but that's like the base of what I'll invest into. I don't want anything that's going to do anything less than that.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. So 14.5% is the baseline, and getting 35% on a lot of the stuff we do means we're just doubling our money that much faster. Okay, so now this is all stuff before, I guess we were dating. You were kind of involved in this, but in 2016, but you weren't really.
A little bit. It's more like you would just kind of tell me what was going on.
I'm like, I bought in our house today.
Yeah. I was like, what in the world is he doing? I was like, are you trying to move me out of state? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I've never been, neither of us have ever been to South Carolina, Missouri. We've never seen these properties. I don't know if I ever will. We've
talked about doing trips out there, but
we never have. So we've done all this just completely sight unseen. Not sight unseen. We have people there. We're getting, pictures and video walkthroughs and stuff, but never actually set foot in any of these properties.
Right.
I think I had somebody that drove by. They wanted to check out one of my properties one time, and I'm like, "Wow, you've seen more of my properties than I actually have." That's kind of funny. And that last deal, that was actually an MLS deal. So that was one that my business partner had listed. It was one of her listings, and she brought it to me as soon as it got listed and said, "Hey, you might want to jump on this." And that was my first South Carolina property. The next one was a duplex that I found on Craigslist. It was just a young investor. She had this property. She had held it for, 4 or 5 years, and it needed some work, and she just didn't have the money maybe to put into it, and just kind of wanted to get rid of it and get out of it. And so I ended up making an offer. I can't remember what she was asking, but I came in at $38,000, or at least that's what she accepted. I don't remember what I actually offered, but we ended up settling on $38,000. I think she was trying to get closer to 50 for it. And I had to put some money into that one. I think I want to say $40,000 into it over the next couple of years, just in capital expenditures. So a new roof, put all new windows in it, some flooring. I think I had to replace the AC units after the windows were replaced. So roof, windows, flooring, AC units, and paint. It was really bad paint jobs. I had to have all the paint scraped and repainted, and it came out looking really nice for, it was a small 1-bedroom, 1 bath on each side, just a small little duplex. But it's been a really good rental property. That was in 2017 when that one was purchased. And at the time, the units were renting for $400 a month on each side. So not a lot. Now it's right around 600. I think we'll be up to 700 this year, because we still own this property. So we have not disposed this one yet. But the value of the property now is, okay, so I'm actually actually doing a cash out refi on this property right now. They haven't done the appraisal yet. I think they're doing it next week. So I'll find out, get a better idea of the value, but I think it's probably around 120,000 is my guess. So definitely got some equity gain there. And it's been cash flowing for 7 years now. And it's been a really hot product. It's never really vacant. Like it's had a lot of demand for it. So it's been a really good property. That's probably why I haven't sold it, because it's been so good.
Yeah, it's a steady one.
But it has had some other expenditures. So like the things I mentioned, and there was also some sewer issues I had to take care of last year. I think I put a new sewer line in from both units that connected and then all the way out to the street.
The unsexy part of redoing houses, the things you don't see that are very important, but you do not see where that money goes.
We just went through that with the property in Costa Mesa. We actually did a little aside here. When we bought that, before closing on it, we had a company come out, a sewer company, and scope the lines. And they said, "Oh, yep, looks good. They're old. If you want to reline them, we can do this and that, but they're not in dire need of replacing." And so when we broke the concrete and dug out the bathroom, they got down to the sewer line and the whole thing just collapsed. It's like, thought we were good.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to replace it and do a new liner all the way out to the street. So that was fun. A little $15,000 expense we weren't really planning on.
Yeah.
So back to this duplex, we haven't sold it yet. I think we'll probably sell it when the market's right, maybe this summer or next year. I don't know. I think we'll probably need to sell it pretty soon because we've held it for quite some time. But at today's value, with what we paid for it plus the expenses we put into it, we're still looking at around $114,000 in profit when you add in the cash flow that had been collected over the last 7 years. So still, that property is a 300% return again. It's been a little bit of a longer hold, so that's over 7 years. So it drops that IRR down to 43%. But still, that's like a 30% return annually. So that's a really, really good. I mean, it's double what the 15% that we try to get. So it's been a really, really good investment.
Yeah.
And then we're pulling money out on it now to help fund some of the other projects we have going on. And then once those are all stabilized and cash flowing, we'll pay that back down. And then I don't know, maybe we may just sell that to satisfy that loan. I'm not real sure yet, but probably getting towards the end of the life on this one, just in our cycle.
Hey guys, if you're finding value or just want to follow along on our journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. That would help us tremendously. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Broke Millionaires and be sure to share with your friends. Now let's get back to the show.
And let's see what else we got. We definitely have more. There was another one in South Carolina. Lots of South Carolinas, and these were all purchased around 2016 to 2018 when you could buy properties for. You can't do that anymore, so they don't have the properties that cheap anymore. That was a different time. But this next one we bought in 2018 for $29,000. That one rented for $700 a month, and we held that for 4 years. Ended up selling that in 2022. I think that was the first house we started, and when we started our dispo cycle, that was the first one that we sold. But sold that in 2022 for $106,000. So on a 4-year hold, with the equity and the cash flow from those 4 years, we ended up profiting $105,000 on that one. So that one was only 4 years. That was a 362% return over 4 years. So that actually works out to a 90.5% IRR, which is about a 45% annual compounding ROI, which is insane.
Yeah.
That one was a really good one. There was another one. This one wasn't as good. Still worked out pretty good though. There was one that was purchased in 2019 for $25,000. This one needed a lot more work on the front end because these other properties we didn't do a whole lot when they were purchased. They were pretty much rent ready, just some paint and real minor cosmetics. This other one had a $16,000 rehab before we started renting it. It needed a full electrical rewire and just a lot of other maintenance items that had been deferred. So we spent $16,000 in that one, and that one started renting right away for $700 a month. And then we sold that in 2023, and that one sold for $105,000. And so that was a 5-year hold. And total profit on that came out to $88,500. So again, that was a 215% return over 5 years and worked out to 43% IRR. So still, again, even though it was a lot more expensive than that one, that still turned out to be a pretty good deal. So, I mean, you see these start adding up, and as these equities are as we're selling off and banking all this equity, we really started to see the 401k start to balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after selling that last one, there was about, before we started buying again, that was about $250,000 just in cash that we were able to save up from those sales of those properties. So deals weren't as common to come by. So it was kind of trying to figure out what to put the money into next, because those $30,000 properties didn't exist anymore. So started looking more into commercial, started looking into some other things. We ended up doing some lending, so ended up doing some private money loans. There was an outfit in Dallas did a loan to. For example, here's one of the loans. It was a $25,000 note. It was a 6-month term. It was this development project that somebody was doing, or it was a redevelopment. So no, it was a new build, and they just needed some cash to finish the project and get it done a little quicker, and ended up getting on that one. It was a 30% APR, so 30% loan was pretty good over 6 months. So when the money was parked there, it was performing well. Got that money back. Did some syndications. For example, did a handful of those. Those some work out, some don't. I'm not a huge fan of them because you don't do anything. With a syndication, you have a big developer that pools money together from investors, and you own part of the LLC that owns the property, but you don't do anything. So I think those are kind of boring.
Yeah.
But still, it's good for like doctors, attorneys, people that are busy and don't have the time, don't want to put in the effort into these. But we did one.
Well, you don't have the time, but you figured it out.
Figured out. Yeah. So there's one that we did in Fort Lauderdale. This was one of Grant Cardone's deals. In 2021, we put in $50,000 into that. I think we own 0.5% of this building, or whatever percent of the building it is. It doesn't spin off. It's a Class A building. It's like a luxury mid-rise that was purchased right after COVID, and this developer that built it got in trouble during COVID, didn't fill it, and so the building was purchased at a discount. We get about $300 a month in cash flow on this, so not a lot, but the equity is where this one really made sense. The value of that today, that $50,000, is worth $106,000. And then with the cash flow we've had over the last 3.5 years on this property, the total profit's at $68,000 so far. So 136% return over 3.5 years, and you're looking at 38% IRR. And they're probably going to sell that in a few more years, and then we'll get our money back plus our equity back on that one. So that's been a pretty good, it's a brand new building, so it's a pretty safe investment. Not huge returns, but a pretty solid, safe investment, being it's a new building and with a big developer like Cardone Capital. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the latest one that we've done, or one of the latest ones we had. So we started buying again this year. We had a couple properties in South Carolina that were purchased, and there was a duplex in Texas. And then the biggest project we got into was our first commercial deal. So we're kind of starting to build up enough. The 401k is starting to snowball enough to where we can now start getting into these bigger commercial deals. So we ended up getting a 14-unit apartment building in Wichita Falls.
Yep.
I don't know much about Wichita Falls other than
don't know anything.
It's the home of the.
Sounded like it was in Kansas to me, not Texas.
I know it wasn't there. Isn't there Wichita in Kansas?
Yeah.
Not Wichita Falls though. This one has a little falls.
It is very close to the Kansas borders, didn't we?
Oklahoma.
Yeah. I'm so tired right now.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
My pregnancy brain.
so Wichita Falls is the home of the Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's all I know about it. So this deal, it was a seller finance. Purchased it in, I think it was March of this year that we closed on this. We bought the property for $805,000 and bought it at a 9% cap rate. So when you're doing commercial deals, the way you buy is you buy based on cap rate, which you basically take the total profit that the building or the property is generating, and you divide that by the purchase price to get your cap rate. So for the area, because it is a smaller market, it's about 100, I think it's a little over 100,000 people there, but 9%, and it's not a Class A building. It wasn't a real nice building. So the nicer the building, the lower the cap rate. But we bought this at a 9 cap, and the plan is to hold this for 5 years, renovate all the units, and then at 5 years, we can either refi it into long-term debt, because we have a 5-year balloon on it with a 3-year option. But the plan is to refinance at 5 years into long-term debt or sell it at that point. And
what was your reasoning in Wichita Falls, knowing nothing about it? Like, was there something about the area that
nothing? It was just the deal.
Just the deal.
I was just chasing deals.
Okay.
So this was brought to me by a wholesaler, or I got connected or saw a wholesaler posting this or something. I don't remember how I got connected with them, but it was this wholesaler out of Seattle, the Seattle area, or Tacoma, somewhere out in Washington. And he specializes in finding seller finance commercial deals and then wholesales those to investors. So this one was something that, because I was trying to get into commercial, just didn't have enough cash to do it either on my own or because normally with a commercial, you got to come in with 25 to 30% down. And so with the cash that we had, it just wasn't enough. I just wasn't finding anything that made sense. So with the seller finance, terms are kind of dictated by the seller on what they want to do. So this one we were able to buy with $120,000 down, which came out to about 12%, and that included the wholesale fee. So it was something we were able to get into. Still had plenty of money left over for renovating, and so ended up closing on that one. And the goal is to, at 5 years, if we can get the cap, with the same cap rate, if we can get the value up to 1.2 or better, it seemed like a pretty solid investment. So hopefully we can exceed that, but that's the goal. And the loan that we got from the seller was really good. It's 5.85% amortized over 40 years, and it's a 5-year balloon with a 3-year option. So the fact,
we're gonna have to go into it, do an episode on seller finance.
Yeah, we definitely will.
I feel like that's something that, like, when you first brought that to me, I didn't know a lot about it. We've done a lot of research, and we've obviously done a deal here through seller finance. But yeah, I think that's something we should definitely do like a full episode on later on. Yeah,
I agree. And with the 401k, you can leverage it, but with the institutional lending, they don't lend a lot. They'll do like 50, 55%. Some of them might do 60%. So if you're buying with the 401k, you've got to have like 40 to 50% down. So you're not getting really good leverage. Whereas with the seller finance, you're able to get that leverage. Loans within the 401k have to be what's called non-recourse, meaning you cannot guarantee the loan. And so a lender can't come after you if you don't pay the payments. So it's a much higher risk loan because they don't have as much recourse on it. With a seller finance, they can make that decision and they're able to take a little more risk, and they may be motivated to sell it because if they're in a situation where they need to sell, they may be a little more motivated to take that risk. So we started rehabbing this property. As of right now, we've got probably half the units that have been fully renovated. And then there's some of them were already occupied and a few of them that are partially upgraded at this point. But there was a lot of turnover, or almost forced turnover. There was a lot of tenants that I didn't want in there.
Yeah.
It was kind of a problem property. Didn't have a good reputation. There was some cops were always getting called there. There was definitely some drugs running through the property. Mm-hmm. And so I just really wanted to clean it up and really rebrand this building. So we've kind of came up with a new name. And we've taken a hit because of it. When I first closed on this, it wasn't fully occupied, but almost. I think there was like 12 or 13 of the units were renting at the time. And then as people moved out, or we kind of pushed them out or didn't renew to clean it up, started renovating those units. And it's been a little bit, hasn't gone according to plan. It's
most things
spent a lot of money on this property and haven't really seen returns yet because all these units are vacant and we're now in the dead winter and it's really hard to fill the property. So kind of trying to wait it out until spring and trying to get more creative and on the marketing and how we're going to fill these units, because I still have a mortgage payment that having to pay. So that's why the cash out refi and the duplex I mentioned earlier is going to partially, there's another property in South Carolina that's going to help renovate, but it's also going to go towards this property as well. Just working capital to get through the winter and finish up any maintenance items and repairs and stuff that we need to do. We're actually looking at trying something else with this property. It's right across the street from the hospital in the city. And my idea originally was we can turn some of these units into midterm rentals like we do here in California.
Right. That's what I was asking earlier, if there was anything that
so that was the original idea, was to make some of these units furnished rentals for traveling nurses, and kind of got away from that because of everything else going on, just trying to get this property turned over and all the people that were there and just trying to get it cleaned up and rebranded. But now, since we're in the dead of winter and having a hard time filling these units, we're going to test this out and see if we can maybe get a travel nurse or something in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll update you later on this one. But once we get all these rented, even if it's just long-term renters that we get in there, this property will be bringing in around $12,000 a month in revenue, and the mortgage is like $4,000 on it. So there's obviously some other expenses on that, but it'll be a pretty good cash flowing property once it's stabilized and up and running.
Yeah.
So we're excited about seeing where that one goes. And there's a few other properties we bought recently. There was another one we bought in South Carolina and rehabbed and just finished that up. So we haven't filled that yet, but there's that one. There's another one that was bought in last year that we had a squatter in there, the previous owner that was there.
That's a question we get asked a lot, is if we're nervous about squatters. And that's really been our only...
But it wasn't our squatter.
It wasn't. That was a really different situation.
And it wasn't really a squatter because it wasn't a renter. It was the previous owner that was trespassing because they never left the house. So the bank sold the house as is, wouldn't let us go look at it, sight unseen, said, no, you can't go look at it. The reason is because they didn't remove the person like they were supposed to and still had the person in there.
Which
and
is
so
messed up.
They're like, we're going to sell this house to you and it's your problem.
Mm-hmm. And it became our problem.
So we bought this in October of last year, and this is now December of 2024, and just recently got keys to the house. I tried cash for keys with this person and offered to pay moving expenses and first month's rent.
Very, very generous.
I even was like trying to work with them because obviously they're going through a hard time. I was trying to find a nonprofit organization to help them out. Like I did way over and beyond, and they just didn't want to leave.
Bad attitude, just not appreciative.
I'm sure they had been there for a couple of years with the bank too, so they were just trying to take advantage of the situation.
Hold on as long as possible, but
finally got access to that house, and so now we can renovate that and get that one cash flowing. But that's the only like squatter situation or trespasser we've had to deal with. But again, that wasn't really our fault
and again, we've talked about this, but we go through that application process like very meticulously, like with a fine-tuned comb. Like we really try to be as careful and do our due diligence as much as possible when we're looking at renters for our properties.
Yes, that is very, very important.
And that's a reason why.
And that's a good
Perfect example of why.
So we'll definitely update on some of these other projects later on once we kind of have more information on them, especially the apartment building, once we get that up and running and what we decide to do with that, whether it's turning some of these units into midterm rentals, or if we just go long term, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of a quick overview of most of the projects that we've done. There's other stuff that we've done too, but that's kind of a good mix of different projects, and we're just going to keep doing these and keep exponentially growing this 401k.
And those are all ones through the 401k. That's
right. Yeah, this is all owned and operated by the
Mm-hmm.
401k. So every time one of these properties sells, every time there's a rent check collected, all of it goes back into the 401k, and it remains tax deferred inside the 401k, just like your 401k stocks and dividends and everything that's coming back in. It's treated the same. So I mentioned, I think in the last episode, you can't flip or else you do get hit with taxes.
Right.
But what you can do is you can renovate a property and rent it. And as long as you get 1 year of rental on it, now it's considered a long-term investment. So you have 1 year of rental income, and then you can sell it at that point. So that's kind of what we've done. We've held them for a little longer. They're all like 3 to 5 years for the most part.
Yeah.
But when you sell it, now you can capitalize on that equity, and it's not considered a short-term gain. It's considered a long-term gain since you did have it passively. It was creating passive income for at least 1 year. So that's how we get around that and not have to worry about the UBIT, which is the unrelated business income tax.
Yeah. That's good now.
Yeah. So I think that's a good overview on some of the things that we've done. Most people that have never heard of a solo 401k or self-directed IRA may not realize that you can actually do these type of deals with your 401k money. And so the 401k actually owns these properties, but you're the beneficiary of the 401k. So at the end of the day, these are your properties. But that's a really, I think it's fun too. It's more fun than just putting it into a mutual fund and watching it slowly grow. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I think, and again, you don't have to have a business to have a self-directed retirement account. The 401k, yes, you do have to sponsor it with your business. But the self-directed IRA, anybody can do. So if you have an IRA account, you can roll that over into a self-directed and start investing that way. So
That's good note.
Yeah, that's definitely a good option for people.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it for going over these.
I was going to say, do you have a book recommendation or anything that...
I don't have a book recommendation, but I think if somebody's interested in starting one of these, I mean, definitely do your research. You can go to the IRS website. They've got lots of information on it.
So much to
you
read.
can just, through forums and just Googling, you can find there's a lot of companies that set these up. There's a company that I'm happy to recommend if somebody reaches out and is interested, but there's companies that specialize in setting up self-directed retirement accounts. So they'll have their legal team work with you on your situation to see what works best for you, whether you have your own business, or if you don't, you're just trying to do a self-directed, they'll kind of walk you through the process. And if it is a self-directed IRA, how to set up the custodian account so you're being compliant with the IRS. And so they charge you a fee to put this whole thing together. And, it's not that much. I don't know what it is now. It's probably a couple $1,000s to set it up, but you get the full, they put the trust together, they set up the whole entity and get everything compliant and approved with the IRS for the account. So they do all the legwork for you and get it all in place. And then you just roll your funds over from whatever account it's coming from to fund it. And then you're off to the races.
Yeah.
So I think that the recommendation today is just getting set up with a company that sets up these self-directed IRA accounts.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that's pretty much it. Anything else to add?
No, I think that was a lot, and you could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I know.
Really.
Some people think this is boring, but I could just go on and on and on about this stuff.
Love it.
Exciting news. We have our first guest coming on to the podcast
in a few episodes
next week.
Yeah.
So we'll be closing out our first 10 episodes. We'll make it to 10. That's most podcasts don't make it past 3. So I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's exciting.
But we've got a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time that's also in real estate and has done really well and made some sacrifices along the way. So we'll have him and his fiance on, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. All right, that's it for tonight. So get out there and make it happen.
Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Rebuilding the Dream Studios.